Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How we doing?
Good, how you doing, Coach?
We're doing great.
Beautiful. Happy
Doing
holidays.
great. Happy holidays to you guys. What's up?
What's kind of your thoughts on the guys you brought in so far?
We feel really good about our class. We just have would have, after this is over, just a couple for January, and then maybe grad transfers. But feel really good about what we brought in. We obviously had some defensive holes that you have to fill. You lost 4 inside linebackers, 3 outside linebackers, so we feel like we've replaced that group that left. Brought in 2 really good DBs that are both corners. So I think we wanted to bring in corners. Sometimes your corners can move to safety. Safeties don't move to corners. We got a quarterback, got 2 wide receivers. Only losing 1 offensive lineman, but we brought in 2. So that I think we got to bolster those numbers. Those numbers were down before we got here. But we feel really good about the class we brought in. And there's a couple kids that have not been vetted through the compliance office that we're just waiting. And then when those kids come through, then we'll make sure we get those out to you. But I can't speak about the kids unless their letter of intent has already been processed.
So that could be, those could be imminent though,
Mhm.
those ones you're talking about?
Yeah,
And how many are those?
there's a couple.
Okay. You talked about filling needs positionally. Linebacker was a big hole.
Big
Can you talk
hole.
about
Big hole.
that a little more in depth maybe and what you got
Yeah,
there?
I think we got some various guys that, the 2 kids from Georgia that can play both inside and outside. What spots they end up at. Caleb will be able to, be an inside linebacker, transfer from Texas, that we think is an older kid that will maybe be able to hopefully step in earlier. We've got a few early enrollees that we're excited because, the signing date's today, but January 6th they'll be here. So there's about 6 or 7 kids that will be here on January 6th that will be able to go through the first part of spring, and then we anticipate either 1 or 2 more kids coming in for April for the spring term to finish out and get the last part of spring practice in. So, in some of those gaps, especially at linebacker, some of those early enrollees, I think they'll be able to, through the spring, hopefully be able to contribute a little bit earlier just because they're not going to be summer enrollees that just get here at preseason camp and then we got to go play a game. So we feel good about the size we got in this class at the linebacker spot. And feel really good about their athleticism. And now it's just a matter of let's get out, let's get them on the field and then kind of find out what they can do. But a lot of them are interchangeable. They can play both inside and outside. We're just what is the best spot for them until we can actually get our hands on them, so to speak, and get them out in the practice field. We're not sure exactly where they'll fit scheme-wise. But the fact that there is some flexibility is a real bonus.
When you bring in guys, do you have in your mind maybe who you anticipate being able to potentially contribute right off the bat? Or how do you kind of...
No, that's the beauty of it is that you do have time. You're going to have 15 spring practices. You're also going to have the whole preseason to kind of get that part down. And there's usually one kid that surprises you that, hey, I didn't think he was going to be ready. Then sometimes I've been places where you think, hey, this kid is the guy, and then he actually gets passed on by. So the cool part about it is that you don't have to make a depth chart until we're getting ready to play that first week. But the fact that we'll have probably 7 or 8 early enrollees, I think it's really going to help us.
What did you like about Parker McQuarrie? You were way out ahead of the curve on that one.
I don't think we're ahead of the curve. I mean, when we got to him, he probably had 15 or 20 offers by the time we offered the kid. So, he had Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, a ton of offers. I mean, he was a double-digit offer kid when we offered the kid. So, I don't think anybody's ahead of any curve when it comes to recruiting nowadays. Kids are offering 7th and 8th graders. So, to be ahead of the curve, we had to get him on elementary school. So we did not get him in elementary school. We actually got him during his junior year. So, know people that had coached against him, know the family. He's got an older brother that plays tight end in defensive end at Boston College. So it's he's got an athletic family. Dad was a really good player. So knew of him. Coach Bible got an opportunity to go out and see him. Coach Fry got an opportunity to go out and see him. And then, the people that had seen him through the camp tours and things like that had spoke very highly of him. Know his high school coach very well and know the league that he played in. So very smart, very intelligent, a real physical specimen. He's 6'6". He's 220 pounds, and he probably really hasn't touched a weight. And I think he's going to be a really big Ben Roethlisberger type body on him. So we're excited about what he can do and how he throws the football. So like everybody, he's not early, but we do have our whole slew of quarterbacks is coming back. So it's not like we have a huge glaring gap. The linebacker gap, as Ben mentioned earlier, that's a huge gap for us that we have to really make up with some young kids. But we feel Parker can come in here and really develop as a quarterback. We're excited. He's got a huge upside.
What about Damian Sellers, the linebacker, just committed a few hours ago?
Yeah, and we had known about that for a while. But again, that's the cool part of this day is they get to have the day for themselves, and we were really excited. I think you go back to his the semifinal game for the Arizona State Championship. He had 5 sacks in that game. And obviously getting to the quarterback has got to be a priority for us, and something we really tried to earmark here in the recruiting process. He's one of those kids that will start out at outside linebacker and see how Damian fits in terms of what we're doing. But he certainly has a motor. He was a highly rated kid, and for a reason. He's one of the top edge rushers in the country, and we were really, really excited to get Damian to be a part of this class.
Offensive line-wise, do you anticipate looking in the transfer portal to maybe fill some of that?
I don't think you can look for a specific position when you look at that. We look at it every day, I think, just like every other college coach in the country, and then can that kid come in and play? So there's no position that's ruled out or no position that we have to take a guy. I don't think we're at a spot now going into year 3 where we need to take a guy at this spot. We're only graduating 1 senior offensive lineman. So Boss is the only one who left, and we replaced him with 2 scholarship players. But there's a bunch of young guys that we feel really excited about. John Gaines, who's played some significant snaps for us. Alec Anderson, who's played significant snaps for us as we develop him. Sam Milazzo did a really nice job in there. And then all of a sudden, you got guys like Bo Taylor in last year's class, Josh Carlin, who we had the opportunity to redshirt, that will get a chance through the spring now to kind of move into a 2 role, and then see how it shakes out. And put the best 5 guys on the field. But you got Duke coming back for year 2, Sean Ryan coming back for year 2, Chris Murray going into year 3 now, Jake Burton will be going into 3 years. So we have 4 starters coming back in the offensive line. Who the 5th one is will really be kind of up in the air. But we've got some guys that have gotten some experience, as I said earlier, like John, like Alec, and like Sam. And they'll throw Bo Taylor in the mix, throw Josh Carlin in the mix, and then the two guys we signed. So it'll be really interesting as that thing shakes itself out. But to go back to your question, we're not targeting a specific position, but in this day and age and the way it works, you have to look at the transfer portal and see where it is. But the first thing here, especially from a grad school standpoint, is can they get into grad school? And that kind of eliminates a lot of the clutter, so to speak, and then we could kind of hone in. We've taken 3 grad transfers since I've been here. Wilton Spade, who was a great contributor for us, and then Jason Harris and Wade Lees last year. So part of it is, we weren't really looking for, in the beginning, for a punter, but when Wade went in, you're like, all right, where does he fit? And he's got a shot. He's going to come in and contribute. So we added Wade, and I thought he was a great addition last year. So we'll look at it. We'll always look at it, but there's not a specific plan that we have to hit a position, because if there's not a real good guy at that position, then you put your eggs in the wrong basket, so to speak. So.
Wasn't Justin Murphy also?
And Murph, yeah. And Murph in the first year. Murph was a huge, especially in our first year, because we were so down offensive line. We walked in here to 8 scholarship offensive linemen, so Murph was a huge stopgap for us in that first year, and then unfortunately got hurt. But then Boss was coming back when Murph got hurt, so he got us through the first couple of games. So will we look at it? Yeah, we'll look at anybody at any position there, but there's always obviously criteria they got to hit to get into school here. So
you didn't get any interior defensive linemen.
Well, we didn't graduate any interior defensive linemen.
So do you feel comfortable with what you?
Yeah, I think. I'd love to take 5 interior defensive linemen, but we had a huge need at linebacker, and so we needed to address that because our numbers. And again, we took over. It's a skewed class on how it was. I think you had 4 senior linebackers at inside, and so how do we kind of balance that back out? I think getting Caleb. So we're not all in the same class again. Caleb is not an incoming freshman, so you hope you get a little bit of a thing there. But I think when you replace, you're not saying, hey, we didn't take any interior defensive linemen, but Osa's back, Martin's back, Neo's back, Mafi's back, Otito's back, Tyler Manoa's back, Stephen Mason's back, Odo Isabor's back. They're all back. So when you look at it, we weren't in the luxury of saying, hey, we want to do this. You probably want to take I'd always want to take a couple quarterbacks, but we'll have 6 quarterbacks on scholarship now. We really couldn't afford to take another quarterback, unless he was a great one. You know what I mean? So that's sometimes you look at the numbers and just say we're replacing what left, and that's really where we are right now. So
with some of the new guys that are coming in, especially on defensive end and outside linebacker, do you see moving them in different positions?
Again, we got to get them here and start to work with them. So they obviously have a skill set. That's why they were offered, and that's why they were signed. But then you got to get them on the field and kind of find out what they do best, and where's their best home. Odo was a kid that's kind of bounced around from a couple different positions, and then from really the Washington State game on was a huge influence for us as an interior defensive lineman and made a huge impact for us there. So, where they fit, I think that's part of, getting them here and getting them ingrained and getting them out in the field and getting a chance to work with them. So
you brought in at least 8 guys, I think, since the start of November. Are you happy with how you were able to kind of rally and bring in guys later in the period?
I'm confused.
8 guys who have been committed since the start of November.
Yeah, see, no, again, there are kids that have committed to us that they didn't make it public, but they've been committed to us. So we can't announce anything until today. So I think maybe sometimes there are things out there, but we felt really comfortable with our class for a while here because we knew kind of who we were going to get. So I think that's sometimes the perception isn't the reality there. We can't control when a kid announces a commitment. Some kids didn't announce commitment till today, but we knew 2 months ago that they were coming. So I felt like the process went really well for us in terms of how we did it. In terms of where our weekends were and how kids were spaced out. We didn't have a weekend where we had 27 kids in, and then you're scrambling to say, what are we going to do out of this? I think it was very well thought out how we spaced out the visits and kind of who was coming in and when they were coming in. So felt very comfortable with the process and how it worked. So
You had some guys who walked on senior night with remaining eligibility. Can you tell us the status of these guys, like Michael Alves?
yeah, Mike Alves is done.
He's medically retired?
He's graduating, so he's moving on, and I'm not sure. Mike, you could call it a medical retirement. I don't think he's not. Mike's not going to play football anymore, so Mike is
Okay.
graduating, and he will graduate. So.
What about Ethan Fernan?
Ethan's petitioning to get another year back because he played, I think, a snap or two when he was a freshman here. So we're going through that waiver process right now.
That could be here, play here?
Yes,
Okay, what about Diamond Lee?
Diamond Lee's graduating and is done.
Done with football?
Done with football.
And then Matt Lynch?
Matt Lynch is going to come back for a 5th year.
Here.
Here.
Okay. What about your, when you look at the makeup of the location of where these young men are from, a lot of out-of-state guys, is there a ratio that you're comfortable with there? I mean, does that
I wish
matter to
all
you?
of them were at Pacific Palisades High School because it would make our drive and recruiting a lot easier. So I don't think you can predict or say where you're going to be. Most of our recruiting is in our footprint, and what I mean by the footprint is in the Pac-12. So you're talking, we have Arizona kids, we have a Utah kid, we have California kids, we have Hawaii kids. That's kind of our footprint. If it's anybody outside the footprint, then they've expressed interest in us, and they'd probably come out here on their own unofficially. So, both Che and Miles came here on their own, the 2 linebackers we took out of Georgia. We're really excited about UCLA, the national brand that UCLA is, both academically and athletically, and contacted us. So that kind of fit into it. Kenny Messador, the outside linebacker out of Connecticut, is at a prep school in Connecticut, but he's actually from Canada. So he went to high school in Canada, then went to a prep school in Connecticut to further his academic career and get himself an opportunity. So he's already done that. Parker's the same thing. You're going to go national to try to find a quarterback. So, but there's not a rhyme or a reason. If you ask any of us, it would be a lot easier if we didn't have to get on a plane, but sometimes it doesn't dictate that.
I guess the concern with out-of-state guys is maybe they're more likely to get homesick or go
True,
back home.
but I've had kids a half hour from home get homesick too. So, I think it's the makeup of the individual, and we feel really good about the makeup of these guys. But there's nothing. You're 100% right. The farther away from home, I think there's always issues in that. But Tito's been a great player for us out of Texas and has contributed as a true freshman and has done a really nice job for us. And he's an out-of-state kid. Jordan Wilson is a Tennessee kid that's done a great job for us. So there's been a history at this school of guys. Roman Pfeiffer, we talked to Roman all about, North Carolina guy. Kenny Easley's a Virginia guy. So there's Kevin Jordan, the All-American wide receiver. He's from the Maryland area. So there's been a ton of guys that have come from outside. Troy Aikman's an Oklahoma guy. So it's what it is. And I don't think you can ever go out and say we're going to take this amount of kids from this state and this amount from this state. It's just because recruiting in its own right is an inexact science. So you don't know just because you offer a kid doesn't mean you're going to get a kid. So.
I guess
Just a couple more.
the flip side of that is that there's been a lot of talk about the top California kids going out of state. Do you feel like?
But I
maybe
mean,
to get
it's
more
not
of
like
those
we
guys?
didn't recruit them.
Okay.
So that's part of the process. I don't think there's a lot of national kids that went maybe out of state. But it wasn't that we didn't recruit the kids or didn't offer the kids. But there's a really good quarterback who went to Alabama. He's the #1 kid in the country. But we recruited him just like I think everybody in the country recruited him. So I don't think we're passing over local kids to go take kids from outside the area. So
Do you have an idea on how many more scholarships you're going to give out before February, or is that?
we only have a couple left. So I'd love to give out 27, but you can only sign 25. So.
Do you have any update on your staff? Do you anticipate returning intact next season?
Yeah, I don't anticipate any staff maneuvers, but I don't know if other people are going to get offered jobs anywhere else either. So this current time, no one's been offered any jobs anywhere, but that's always what you had to deal with. After the signing date last year, William Manning was offered a job at Oklahoma and left Oklahoma, and we brought J.C. Kafusi in, so I can't predict what's going to happen from that side.
What about guys leaving on their own, like retiring?
No one's talked about retirement.
Liku, is he permanently on offense now, Liku?
Ciale?
Yeah,
Yeah, he'll go into spring ball as an offensive lineman.
okay. Is he a center or a guard?
He's playing guard right now. But again, anybody that plays inside's got to play multiple positions. So, we'll see how that shakes itself out. But he did a really nice job as he transitioned, and we think his future is as an offensive lineman. And I know Justin's really excited about him. But the fact that we got a chance to kind of work with him on both sides during the year, gave us a chance to try to fit him into the right spot. And as I mentioned earlier, we talked about all of the interior defensive linemen are coming back. So, we feel like there's 6, 8, 10 of those guys, that are inside kids. So, again, we had to bolster. The numbers in the offensive line were down when we first got here, so trying to build that back up to what's a workable number. We'd like to be around 14 scholarship kids over there. So, we're getting close to that number right now.
Who do you have competing at center to take Boss's spot?
Everybody. So it'll be wide open. That's the one spot in the offensive line that's wide open. And, we'll try a multiple of guys in there. Chris has done it. Chris actually played against Cincinnati as a freshman. But John Gaines has taken a lot of snaps in there. Sam Roswell took snaps this year at it. So, it'll be Duke Clemens has the potential to be a center. Sally has the potential to be a center. So who's the best? I think that's what we're always trying to, when we're going into that first game, who's the best combination of the best 5 linemen, and they'll play. And then we always try to play 8, a backup center, a backup guard, and a backup tackle. So really what we're always striving for, who's the best 8. But who that is, I don't know. But I know all of them will get an opportunity to show us what they can do, and then we'll kind of see who fits into that mode. So.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Appreciate
Happy
it.
holidays.
Thank you, too.